downer. The downer here is not, as some may think, the downer here is not Trump's response. The downer here is the response to Trump's response. So this is a comment that Trump gave yesterday. We're going to lay out some context here because this is what I'm about to lay out should be obvious. This should be intuitive to people. However, right-wingers, conservatives, particularly the evangelical pro-life conservatives, have just a massive case of brainworms. They're politically retarded. They have zero political instincts. They're not capable. They've accepted the blank slate narrative. The liberal, they're within the liberal worldview, and they're trying to operate as liberals on anti-liberal positions within a liberal worldview. So their actual intention, the spirit of what they're doing doesn't matter. Because what matters is that, in effect, they're a bunch of blind, bumbling oafs just crashing around, shitting everything up. They are the political version of the Indians out shitting in the beach. So this was an interview yesterday. Trump was asked about his position on abortion. Yet again, he's made this abundantly clear. Roe v. Wade was one of the biggest political accomplishments by our side in generations. The entire narrative all along has been, we need Roe v. Wade repealed and everything returned to the states. Now, that is the case, which means it's your responsibility as passionate pro-life conservatives in a given state to dedicate your resources to legislating against abortion within your states. And your responsibility at the federal level, politically, is to block the potential of someone who will undo that and force you to have to engage on that level again at the federal level. You've got all these constitutional conservatives who don't even know how to follow the naturally implied rules of their own fucking system. So this was Trump's comment, his first comment.
You overturned,
everyone does.
I think Roe, does, yeah. And you want abortion to be a states' rights issue. In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6-week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years, 52 years. I got it done. They wanted it to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult path.
So there's an amendment in Florida where he is a resident. So she's asking him about how he's voting in his state as a citizen. He's casting a vote as a person, not as a president, as a person, he's casting a vote. So this is, he's showing what his personal opinion is. His personal opinion is 6 weeks isn't enough weeks. I think this is an abomination. 6 weeks is too many weeks. So if I was a resident of Florida, then I would be you're being outraged at one person and their vote in that area, that state. Now they're influential. Their vote is going to influence other votes. But it has never been the case. Nobody has ever even supposed that Trump is the most radical fringe of the pro-life movement in America. No, he recognizes that this is, even if he doesn't completely align with you, radical pro-life person, he wants to, within the structure of the system that exists, he doesn't want to force something illegal and unjust upon you. So he's going to return it to the states, and then you have it out at the state level. Now you might say, oh, well, this implies how he's going to rule at the federal level. He is on the record over and over and over again as believing, accepting that this is something to be dealt with at the state level. So his position on abortion as president at the federal level does not matter. It matters to the extent that he says, as far as the federal government is concerned, this is not our concern. Now, if you want to ask me as a private citizen what I believe, well, here's what I believe. I'm like moderately pro-life. But I don't care about the personal pro-life position of the president if his baseline presumption is the federal government has no involvement in this. It's completely untenable to have a federal ban on abortion. Advocating for that makes you a controlled opposition. If you don't have the political sense to recognize that the only utility in a movement like that is to promote the pro-choice perspective, then your intentions with it don't matter. The state is not the church. There's a way to make the state subservient to the church, but this requires long time horizons. You're not going to do this in a single election cycle. And trying to do it in a single election cycle makes you indistinguishable from a Fed because of the actual effect that the actual actions will have. So this is the amendment that they're talking about, which absolutely, this is a terrible amendment. It should not pass. I'll be kind of surprised if it passes, but I won't be super surprised because this is the state of public opinion regarding abortion right now, which is a judgment upon us. The fact that abortion is so publicly tolerable at various levels is a judgment upon us. And the solution to that is not go wrestle control of the federal government and then try to get a national ban passed. That's a fool's errand. It will not happen. It could happen in the future, someday, down the road. But in order for us to get to that point, we have to be prudent now. Amendment 4 says, this is the amendment to limit government interference with abortion. Very Orwellian. No law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health, as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. This is the thing that Andrew commented the other day. He said, this vagueness can be a utility as long as you have your people in power. Because the way that legislation works right now is it's worded vaguely, and then the experts are the ones who determine the definitions of these things. What's the definition of viability? Well, viability is conception. How about that? Or when necessary to protect the patient's health. You can define this as extreme injury or death, and then you can narrowly define those. Healthcare provider can be a very narrowly, specifically defined person. This amendment does not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. So it's saying it leaves that in place. So yes, this absolutely, if you're in Florida, vote no on this. I think you can use the vagueness, but I think that's a dangerous game to play in the current political environment. So then, if in case you're not completely sure after that 145-second clip, if you're not completely sure, and it matters to you what Trump's personal stance is, it should be very clear after this clip.
She asked me about abortion, and I handled it very nicely because you know what? That's so overplayed. We have abortion. We have the whole thing brought back into the states where it belongs. That's where everybody wanted it for years and years and years. And they're voting on it.
the abortion issue doesn't naturally matter to him. He's a New York lib, New York Democrat. This isn't like a key issue to him, but he knows that it's a key issue to his base. And he wants his base to get the things that they want. So what he was told all along is, he's like, hey, give me a position that I can run on that I may not actually care about, but the people who are going to vote for me care about it. So I'm going to represent them as a patron should. Here's the issue. Abortion. Okay, what do you want? We want it returned to the states. This is no business of the federal government. Murder is not something that's handled by the federal government. It's handled at the state level. So let's return to that. Okay, I'll get you what you want. He got us what we wanted. Oh, now we're going to move the goalposts. Oh no, this isn't enough. Actually, go the other way around and do a national ban. And we're going to champion this issue right at the moment where it will undermine you the most. These people are politically retarded.
And I happen to believe in the exceptions Ronald Reagan did for life of the mother, rape, incest. The exceptions, probably 90% of the people do. But you know, I was just telling this reporter, the real problem and the real radicals on that issue are the Democrats, where you can have an abortion in the 9th month. And in 6 states, you're allowed to kill the baby after the baby is born. And you know, one of those states is Minnesota, where this tampon Tim comes from.
So it's pretty abundantly clear the way these subversives want to frame it is, oh, Trump is fine with abortion up until birth. He's made it pretty clear here that he isn't. If it matters to you what his personal position is, it's pretty clear his personal position is it should be resolved at the state level, and abortion up until birth is not acceptable. So he wants somewhere between 6 weeks and birth. That's a really wide window, particularly for someone personally who believes 6 weeks is too many weeks. It's about 6 weeks too many. I also recognize that my position on this is extremely fringe. Extremely fringe. Which means the people who occupy my position have a responsibility to make this not fringe. And that's not going to happen through federal politics. You're not going to mainstream something like that through federal politics. You are not a lib, even though you're thinking and acting like one. You don't get to occupy that position. You don't get to use politics that way. That's not within your purview right now. You have to have some self-awareness. And recognize that as much as you may not like it, as gay and fake as it is, the fact of the matter is there are 2 possibilities right now. One possibility you just heard. Wants it at the state level and is opposed to up until birth. The other option is no restrictions whatsoever, mandated from the top down, encouraged and facilitated. Those are the 2 options. You don't get a third option. So by default, undermining and doing anything to prevent the first option necessarily is advocacy for the second option. Nate Fisher says, are you serious about stopping abortion? The best way to turn people against something is to make it shameful, embarrassing, low status. This has repeatedly been used to turn opinion against practices, drunk driving, racist language, not recycling, etc., before winning the power to impose legal penalties, or to ensure that such penalties maintain support and could be ratcheted up. Even the right has had wins of this sort against overt displays of DEI rhetoric and gained the power to impose some legal bans. These efforts should be particularly focused on middle and upper middle class suburban women, the sort who are very concerned about holding respectable opinions and currently serve as the major impediment to abortion bans. Actual tactics to achieve this can vary, but it should be easy to assess whether abortion is viewed as shameful in a particular community. Contrast with failed slogans like choose life. This just reinforces the left's framing that abortion is a valid choice. Did anti-racism campaigners ever implore people to choose not to use the N-word? Of course not. They pushed the message that the very thought was shameful. Will the pro-life lobby embrace these tactics? Many pro-lifers complaining about Trump's position shy away from anything that could be seen as shaming women for abortion, even when it's the only strategy that might give us more wins. Lila Rose, you have a huge platform. Will you support this? David French, I don't think anyone believes you actually care about banning abortion, but you've used this as a pretext to attack Trump. You have a column with one of the publications with the most power to shift norms. Will you use it to push the message that abortion is shameful? Of course not. Of course not. Because the pro-life activists that are spurging out about this are disingenuous, bad people. Leatherwood, and many evangelical institutions are citing abortion as a reason not to vote for Trump. Your job is to promote the agenda of the SBC. Will you embrace a strategy that can actually move the needle on abortion? No, because being politically effective is wrong. It's wrong and unchristian to be politically effective because Christianity has been equated with political subservience. I wonder why that might be. I wonder who might have an incentive to correlate Christianity to political submission. That's not a Christian principle. There was a couple other tweets in here of his that I wanted to highlight, and then I've got at least one from Kryptos. So this one here. This is exactly the perspective I'm talking about. Jared Burdick says, the best way is criminalize it without exception or compromise, to expose it for the evil that it is. The law is the greatest tutor in any society. Hashtag abolition 101. We don't have the power to do so today. This is like ANCAP thinking. Ban the state. End the Fed. Abolish the state and replace it with nothing. This is like old man yells at cloud. You're standing on a cliff shouting into the wind. So how do we shift opinion to gain this power? By pushing for it. We do have the power in some states if we are what we say we are. Okay, we'll focus on that then. Stop wasting your energy on pointless quixotic campaigns and go focus where you actually do have the power. If pro-life Republicans in states like Oklahoma would stop opposing abolition, we would have abolition on the state level. Okay, why aren't you talking to them? Until then, the greatest way to educate is to expose the compromise. Expose them! Spread the message! We just got to change hearts and minds. If we just have a free exchange of ideas in the marketplace of ideas, our arguments are the best. You can't argue with our arguments. They're not going to argue with you. They're just going to shoot you. You've repeatedly lost referenda even in very conservative states. Popular opinion does not currently support bans. I proposed a strategy to change this. Here is the politics understander. If you want legislation nationally banning something that can't even be accomplished at the state level, you're going to have to shift popular opinion in a big way. And you know how you don't shift popular opinion? Like this. That's how you turn popular opinion against you. By being insufferable and slimy, backstabbing, hypocritical. This is how you turn public opinion against you and make your job even harder. It's not your job. You're not doing it. You're making our job even harder. You're ensuring that more babies will die because of your political incompetence. We don't have the luxury of being this naive. Where was Kryptos' comment? Back here. With the original quote from Ben Zogslop, you will reward Kamala Harris and the Democrats by withholding your vote. This is how the system works. Complain about it all you want. This is how it works. You want to punish Donald Trump for not being 100% aligned with you on abortion abolitionism by helping elect a radical pro-abortion candidate. Explain to me how this helps stop abortion. You don't want to stop abortion if you're Ben Zogslop. You don't actually want to, as demonstrated performatively, because you're doing the things that will prevent the stopping of abortion, that will facilitate more abortions. This is living in Ancapistan in your head, conservative evangelical edition. I don't know if I can read this out loud. If they're not going to start bleepity-bleeping abortion clinics, they are not serious people because they're obviously not interested in a political solution. Right, exactly. If you're not willing to be a Fed, then you don't care about stopping abortion. Meanwhile, on the flip side, here's the rhetoric being pushed by the people who are de facto earning these people's votes. Whoops. I caught it after like 2 seconds. Lincoln Project. Huh.
Driver's license, registration.
Here you go, sir. How's your day going?
That's your daughter?
Sure is.
Abigail, right?
How do you know her?
Were you about 8 weeks pregnant? See, you've been spotting recently. You've had any cramps or nausea?
That's personal.
You've been taking your prenatal vitamins?
Excuse me?
Are you ticketing me for something?
Where are you heading, Abigail?
To go see my older sister, Natalie.
Well, that's strange. This says here that Natalie's at a concert in Dallas, and your navigation is set to a women's health clinic in one of those abortion states.
We have the right to travel.
Not anymore. Step out of the car.
Please, officer.
Both of you out now. You, sir, are under arrest for crossing state lines to obtain an abortion for a minor under your care. And you, young lady, well, you're under arrest for evading motherhood.
You're under arrest for evading motherhood. This is how your enemies perceive the incoming political movement that you don't want to support. I don't know how to put this more simply. Do you not see the utility in this? You have to have a time horizon beyond a single election cycle. Andrew, Politically Catholic, says it's just laziness. Those fucks want everything done for them. Yes. You don't want to actually do the difficult work, the stuff that requires sustained, coordinated, long-term investments. You want the easy out. Just wait for an election cycle to come around and try to lambaste the guy into giving you everything you want and then check out for another 4 years. Picanyones, $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. He says you should be scared of what else Trump's team may want to enforce locally if you allow them this exception. They're not your guys on the whole. I agree with that. Yeah. I'm very happy for them to embrace federalism. Let the federal stuff happen the way it's going to. Let them fight that battle. At the very least, be obstructionists, blockading at that level. Allowing us the time and the space to build up our own institutions and protect our own domains because we've been so absent from this task for so long. We need the time and the space to build things up locally. I think that's the upshot of a Trump campaign, of a Trump election. Maybe we could get something even more than that. I'm not going to have my heart set on that. I want them to be a to be a wall against foreign invaders of all types across all domains. Kate says people don't realize that abortion is the generational curse. God won't let us off the hook by erasing this overnight. We must put in the work to redeem our parents' generation for their sins. Yes. You're not going to get the get out of jail free card. It's not in the cards. It just isn't. Yelling and screaming for it isn't going to make it happen. You have to exercise your own responsibility in your own local domain in order to get something like that, and you're going to have to do it for your entire life. All right, let's see here.